Hi folks, this is Karim Rao from IT Visualizer channel. Today we'll continue our lab, the transformers. This is the video number 33. In the previous video we have been discussing or continuing working with our document, which is called Active Directory Security Assessment. This is a document that was created by a user called Hiyuka, which has submitted this document or PDF on the website called Cyber Security Hub, which is hosted, or it is on the platform of LinkedIn. Okay, this is a very useful document. It's suggesting some best practices, security best practices, and some backup best practices also to back up your Active Directory and to secure your Active Directory. In the previous two videos we have been discussing most of the document. Okay, for the backup solution we are working, or I have set up the BackupExec 20.6 solution software. I will use it in the upcoming videos to back up the Active Directory and its components. In the previous video, briefly what we have done, that we have been working with some best practices in this documentation. Some of them are for example, to secure your service accounts, to make its passwords more lengthy, to be at least 20 characters. For your IT personnel, their Active Directory account should be or should have a password setting to be also from 14 to 16. This is another best practice or another recommendation from Hiyuka. Anyway, we will continue working with our this documentation. There is still some things still we didn't, or some best practices we didn't implement yet. So I will continue working with this documentation, and also this can be after finishing this documentation with its best practices, we can also work with another documents or PDFs from Microsoft, which is called Security Baseline. This is some Microsoft best practices and security policies, also to be it's recommended Microsoft, for example for Windows Server and Windows 10. This is some Microsoft best practices. We will also discuss after finishing this documentation. We'll discuss also Microsoft best practices. So let's continue our lab. Please, for more info, refer to my previous videos, my previous two videos concerning this documentation, which is called Active Directory Security Assessment. Refer to my previous video to see what we have done so far. As for this documentation, I will put it in link, Google Driver link, under the description section in the description section under the video. That's where I am uploading, or the videos I am uploading to my YouTube channel. Okay, so if you need to see the documentation, just click on the Google Drive link and download it. Okay, so let's begin our 33 video. In this video we are discussing another very important issue when you are working with servers and Active Directories and workstations. The most important element in the Windows Server or Windows even or Windows workstations for troubleshooting is the logs, or the event log. This is a place where the Windows puts all of its, or record all of its activity, security activity, application activity, system activity. All of these are logged in the event log. So if you are troubleshooting any problem, you need to have a look on these event logs. Not only that, you need to back up frequently these event logs for history. For example, if you need to return, for example, you need to know a user that have logged in, for example, on the Active Directory or to the domain, you can return to the event log security events to see when this user have logged. Or you are making an audit on a certain file on the Active Directory. This is recorded in the security events under the audit logs. Okay, so it is very important to first, as an IT, you need to revise your event logs every for your servers every maybe once a month or something, just to make sure that everything is working perfectly. In the previous video I have seen that there is some event IDs you need to check regularly. Some of them are concerning the user rights, concerning the user logs activity. Some of them are concerning opening certain folders. In the previous video we have discussed, or Hiyuka suggested some event logs for the IT to revise every month, and we have done this in the previous video, how to make a custom view and how to put all of the events we need to be revised and put it in one place, so it's easy to revise them. Okay, so in this video I will show you all how to back up all of your Windows Server logs, and not only that, and after that we will make a backup job on the BackupExec Veritas 2060 to back up this folder to be with our important things to back up on all of the servers. For example, this will be backed up with the user shares folders and the important documents. So we will back up the event logs for the servers using a script, and this script have some parameters. For example, we will tell first of all the script is working with I think it's with PowerShell. No, it's a VBS script, it's a Visual Basic script, I think, or a BAT script. Anyway, it works with some specific parameters. It tells, or the script, when the event logs, we know for example that the event log here, we can have a look when you open the Windows, and then here the control panel, and then administrative tools, and then the event viewer. Here we can see that this is the Windows logs. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is 5 categories, or the event logs are recorded in 4 categories: application, security, and system. Application, here is all of the errors, or all of the applications you have on the Windows will be all of its activity, or all of its errors will be recorded here, okay, in the application section. And in the security section, here is what concerns all of the security events, which basically it's about logging of a user, logging in or logging out, opening some files or folders. This user have changed its rights, for example, some audit access special login. This is all what concerns the users, or any security events concerning opening a file, opening a folder. Some user rights are changed, some user groups are added. All of this will be in the security log. As for the system log, this is contains the system, or the Windows operating system errors. So for the application, this is concerning all the applications that is installed or on your Windows. For example, if you have Adobe or maybe another software, it will record. If there is an error in Adobe, it will be recorded on the application section. But if there is an error concerning the Windows 10 or Windows Server itself, it will be recorded here. So we have 3 important event categories: application, security, and system. All of this in this lab we will show you. I will show you how to back up all of this applications, how we can back it up, make a folder, and make the script that we will use to back up all of this logs. Okay, and then after we back up these logs with using a script, we will use the folder that we have put all of the event logs in it. We will make a backup job on BackupExec and tell it to take this folder to put it on a DVD or put it on a tape drive. Okay, so we can refer to this later if you need to check anything, or just to have a normal DVD in your office, for example, for all of the event logs for your servers for 1 year or something. If you need to revise anything concerning the servers in a specific time, you will have a hard copy. You will have a soft copy. Then you can print it. If you need it as a hard copy, you can print it later. So let's begin the video. So here we'll power on we have two domain controllers or two servers. Each one of them is promoted as a domain controller, so we will take or back up the event logs for both servers. Okay, here you go. The script is in transformers DC domain, and there is a folder. We will take it as a copy. It's called backup events log. Okay, this folder contains the script for the backup, okay, and some exe file. Okay, backup, the script is .bat, and another file it's .exe. I will show you how we will use this exe file later. I will show you how you can work with this script to back up the event logs. Okay, first of all we will power on the first domain controller, and then the second domain controller. As I said before, maybe we can add this this point, or this is as a best practice to our documentation. Maybe we can add this to, or we can add these best practice to our best practices that we will implement. You need to back up your servers, okay, or important servers in your domain regularly. This as a best practice. You can back it up with a script, and there is different ways to back up your event logs, but we will use a script. Here we go. This is, you have to copy this folder. I will leave this copy, or a copy of this folder, in the transformers folder, which will be on a Google Drive link in the description section under the video. Okay, so here we have already copied the folder that contains the script that we will use to back up our event logs in both servers, server 1 and server 2, or the domain controller number 1 and the domain controller number 2. So here we will put it on the D on both servers. We have two servers, each one of them has an D. We will put it here on the D drive. These servers, both of them have a D drive. We'll put both folders, which is called BackupExec, backup event logs. We'll put them both on the D drive for both servers. Okay. So now we will begin. First of all, this is how the plan will work. Okay, you need to back up the event logs of the server automatically. Okay, you don't need, for example, you need to tell the Windows, for example, to take the backup of the event logs, or you need to tell the script. Okay, sorry, we will tell Windows, okay, to use the script in a specific time to back up the logs for both servers at a certain time. Okay, automatically. So for example, if I tell Windows, for example, to back up the event logs for both servers at 12 noon, for example, okay, this will be done automatically. This will run automatically without your interference. So how we can do this? We can do this through something called scheduler or task scheduler. This is something in Windows. Okay, you will create a task. Okay, you will tell Windows to use the backup script that we will use in this lab. You will tell the task scheduler to use this script at a certain time, okay, to back up the servers, both servers event logs. We will see how this is done. Here is the, just a minute, here is the folder that will contains, let me have a little bit further here, I'll show you all. Here we can see that this is the folder that contains our login script, which is backup event.vbs, event logs.vbs. This is Visual Basic script, and there is another file called backup event logs. This is .bat, or this is an exe file. We will use it with our task scheduler to tell the Windows to run the script, which is backup event logs.vbs. We will use this program to let's say redirect. We will tell the task scheduler to use this .bat file or this .exe file to redirect it to the script to back up the event logs of both servers. Here we have three folders. This is an application and security and system. Here the script will back up the event logs and put every type of events in each specific folder. For example, in the event logs there is a section called application event logs. He will back up the event logs section to the application folder, and then he will back up the security section to the security folder, and then he will back up the system folder, the system events to the system folder. To have a closer look on the script, we will see now. We tell him edit. Here we can see another thing. This is the script in general. It's telling him, this first line tells him to back up the events or to back up the event logs in the back events log. Okay, this is the location to save the events. Okay, and then under it there is three sections, every section concerning a part of the event log event types. For example, here we can see that it's telling him to, let's have a look. It's here for example, it's telling that the log file size, you need to back up the event log for the system. As I said before, there is a section in the event logs. Let's have it also with and let's have it here maybe closer. Here is the event log. Okay, I think I will have it in the video. Okay, here just to make sure, he is telling, I am telling him that this line to back up the system section in the event logs. Okay, when to back up this section in the event logs when the log reaches 32 megabyte. This is written in bytes. Okay, but I am telling him to back up the system section in the event logs when the system section in the event logs reach a size of 32 megabyte. Okay, we will know why we have put this specific value. We will see. This is the first section of the script. Another section, we will tell him, for example, to back up the security section in the event logs when the security section in the event logs have a log size of 128 megabyte. Okay, and also we will have the section of application in the event logs, also to back up the application section in the event logs when it reaches the same as the system section, 32 megabyte. We will see how why we did put this type of why we have this value. We will see here that when we open the Windows log and then system, for example, and then tell him properties, we will have here a little bit. You can see here, for example, it's saying him when maximum event log size is reached. Here you are telling the event log system that when the system section or the system logs reaches a size of 32,000 kilobyte, which means 32 mega, you can delete these files and begin recording new ones. So what he will delete? He will delete first the oldest one. For example, you have about maybe 10 logs. For example, the first log it's in May, for example, and the last log it is in December. So when you reach 32 megabyte, he will begin deleting the oldest one, which is May, and then he will continue until he reaches December log. Okay, so here we know that the system log will be deleted when it reaches a size of 32 megabytes. So we will tell the script when the system log reaches this 32 megabyte, please begin back up this system log. And we will do this for the rest, for the application and the security. We will know the maximum log size and tell the script when these logs reach this maximum size, please begin back up these events. Okay, So here we can see this is the security event. We are telling the script to back it up when it reaches 128 megabyte. Here we can see that the maximum log size is 128,000 kilobytes. Okay, you can just divide it by 1000 to make it or change it to megabyte. Okay, here the application is also the maximum size is 32 megabyte. I think no, maybe 32,000 maybe. Oh, I think maybe I have mistaken something. It's this is in kilobytes. Yes. Okay, the maximum size in the event logs, it is in kilobytes, but the script is working with bytes. Okay, so just this is something to take note of. Here I'm just adding the task scheduler to my console. This is a way that you can add, as I said before, here you can to make it more easy to manage a lot of things in one place. You just open an empty window, and we can say it's not this term, an empty console. Okay, and then we have all of these things in the windows. You can add them in one place. Okay, so I have added, for example, the Active Directory, the DNS, the DHCP, the file server, Wins, disk management, event logs, services. All of this I have done it in one place. Okay, or put it in one console, so I can be able to manage them easily, so I don't have every time, for example, to access the event log, to open the control panel and then administrative tools and then go to the event viewer, for example, or then control panel, administrative tools, for example, and then disk management and then services. Okay, no, I am here putting them in one console so I can be able to access them easily. So here I am adding the task scheduler. This is the option that we will use to tell the Windows to use our script to back up the servers at a specific time. Okay, so here we will add it to the console, so it is easy for me to to use it. Okay, so not I have to open the control panel, then administrative tools, and then task scheduler. We can do this from one place. So here I do this. I have two consoles, one for each domain controller. Okay, so I am adding both task schedulers, okay, for both servers in my custom consoles, so I can be able, as I said before, to use it for ease of use. Okay, and then okay, so we have added the task scheduler. So now we will create a task that will run automatically in a specific time. I prefer it to be at 12 noon or 12 midnight, so there is no activity on your Active Directory or no activity on your domains. Here we'll tell him to create a task. Right click task scheduler and then create a task. We will name it backup. We name it backup event logs. Just a minute. Or we can continue here. We will name the task to be a backup event logs. Okay, and then we'll tell him to run, when to run this task, to run whether the user is logged in or just. We can have a little bit over here to discuss it. Here we are telling the Windows to run this or to run this task when the user of Windows, for example, I am logged in to this Windows or to this domain controller by my username Keraof. This is a domain admin on both servers. So I'm telling him to use the script whether I am logged in or logged out. This is very critical, okay, because if you tell him to run it when you are logged on, so it will run only when you are logged into the servers with your username. So this should be chosen, okay, or clicked run whether user is logged in or not. You need to tell him that. Okay, so how, for example, he will use, and this is to be used, and then we will tell him not to use my Active Directory user account. We will use a username called system. This is better, because if for example my user account is locked or my password expired and my user account is locked for any reason, then the task will not run. But as for the user is called system, okay, this is a local user on both servers. This user doesn't get locked, it's always opened and don't have a password, okay, to be changed. This is the system user is managed by Windows. This is a Windows system user called system, so we will use this user because this user doesn't have a password expire date and it couldn't be locked, okay. This is a username that it is on the local servers, sorry, it's local user on both servers, which called system. This user can't be locked or doesn't have a password for expire, so we will choose this one, run while the user is logged in or not, and we will change, or we'll tell him to run the task with the user called system. This is a local user, and then we tell him to run with highest privileges, okay. This is telling him to run it as an administrator or with the highest, because if you didn't tell him that, the task will not run. So you need to tell him to run with the highest privileges, and then here we're telling him this is configured for Windows Server 2019. If you have different servers with different systems, then you have to specify which server type or which server operating system you have, okay. So let's continue. You can hide it from the user, okay, but I will not hide it. And then we will and then I will change, okay, in the trigger, but let's leave first. I will change the user, or there is something else. Okay, we'll tell him to change user or group. I will use the user called system. As I said before, this is because the user, it's a local user, it's not an Active Directory user, and this user doesn't have a password and it should not be locked or expire, okay. It doesn't have a password and it can't be locked or disabled, okay. Because maybe, for example, here, let's wait for a minute. In the trigger section, you're telling him basically when to run this task using the script that we are working with, okay. As I said before, the system user in the previous from a previous second, the system user can't be expired password. It doesn't have a password to expire, and it can't be disabled, okay, or it also can't be locked. So it can't be locked, can't be disabled, it doesn't have a password to expire. So this is all advantages to use the system user when working with any task. If you want to have an automated task and you need to have a user that is stable, it doesn't have a password to expire, and doesn't you can disable it and you can't lock it, so you can use the system user locally. This is a local user in Windows, it's not an Active Directory. So here we will click on trigger and tell him to begin the task on a certain time. We tell him to make it daily at 12 midnight. Okay, 12 midnight. This is the trigger. Okay, we tell him, we give the task a name and which user will run the task. Okay, and with highest privilege, and then the time that the task will run. Then we will tell him in the actions to start a program. This program, okay, we'll tell him to start. Okay, let's go for the folder that contains our script, which is D. Okay, and then backup logs, and then we tell him to use the backup event logs. Here we can just have a moment. This script or this exe file will forward or tell the task manager to use the script below. Okay. Okay, so this someone tell me why you can't, for example, tell him to use the script directly from here. You can't. You have to have a program, or you have to have a batch file or an exe file, so you can use the task scheduler. Okay, so basically what I am telling him in this, that this program in it, okay, I am telling him to use the script underneath it. Okay. So, okay, so we will tell him the task scheduler to use this program, and in this program we are telling him to run the script below. so it's basically the same, but it's a little tweak, but this should be done because the task scheduler doesn't run Visual Basic scripts directly or PowerShell scripts directly. You need to have a batch file or to have an exe file telling him this, or to tell the batch file to run a script file. Okay, so let's go. So here we're telling him this, and then in the start in option we'll tell him to run it from this location, d backup event logs // okay. No, this is not correct, sorry, I'll pass it a little bit further. Sorry guys, we can come here. Okay, again. Okay, here we go. Here we need to tell him in the start in options to d / BackupExec event logs another slash. Okay, start in optional. Okay, you just tell him start a program, and then this is the location of the program, which is a command, as I said before, it's backup events logs.cmd. And then in the start in options you need to tell him where to have this script. This is another confirmation that the script is there in d / backup events logs /. So here we have this task scheduler. We have it a name and which user to run and when it will run and which program to use or which script to use, and then you will leave everything as it is. Okay, we will make this task on both servers. Okay, so we can be able to back up the event logs for both servers automatically at 12 noon. Okay, here you can have a little bit of a trick, but let's go back here. Okay, sorry, I can pass all of this because I don't need it. Sorry, can back all of this. No, we get it, back it back. Okay, sorry, can go back further. Okay, here guys, we have done the script. This is the script. Okay, and for example, if you need to make this task scheduler or this task to be done on the server, the other server with the same setting. Okay, as I said before, we have both servers, both scripts are on the D drive. Okay, and they have the same components. Okay, or the same file folder or same structure. You can just tell him to export this task, and then we can import it at the task scheduler on the first server. So this is much easier, not to go again and go to the task scheduler on the first server and begin creating the same task again and again. Okay, you tell him to export this. So now we can go to the task scheduler. Here we have done this task. Okay, this will run at 12 noon. Then we will put this exported task on the hard disk of the first domain controller, and then we will go to the task scheduler on the first domain controller and make or import this task. Okay, here we can go, and then we have finished the task scheduler or the task on the second domain controller. Now we are doing the same on the first domain controller. So here we can tell him to just a minute, we need to okay, we'll tell him to import task, and then we'll tell him to import the task. Okay, we have and we have done this on the D. Okay, we will go and tell him to, it's an XML file, this task, okay, and tell him to import it here. Okay, here the task is there with the same setting. Okay, we have done, we don't need to do anything, it's there. And tell him okay, if there is an error, I don't know why this has happened, because I don't know, but it's normally, if you're doing this, it works perfectly. But here, for example, okay, I will leave the task, I will create it from the beginning. I just want to show you all how this can be done easily. I have done this in a previous lab, not this lab. It was imported successfully. Okay, so here we will repeat what we have done. We create a new task, and then we will make it again with the same setting. I'm just revising with you here. We will name it, we name it the same. We will repeat just again the steps, so you can all get accommodated. Here we will name the task as event logs. We tell him to run while the user is logged in or not, and then we will tell him to use the system user, which is a user that have full rights on the system, on the Windows system, and it's a local one, and it doesn't get disabled or expire or locked. Okay, and they'll tell him we are using Windows Server 2019, and then we'll tell him to run this task daily. Tell him to run this task daily, and okay, it will run at noon, 12 in the afternoon, or midnight, sorry. And then we tell him okay. This is the script I have taken from TechNet, Microsoft TechNet script gallery. This contains a lot of useful scripts. Please all you can go to it. Okay, he will tell him to use this program. Okay, to run this program at 12 noon or midnight, and this program is telling the Windows to use the script below, as I said before. It's BackupExc.vbs. Okay, so we have done all of this, and tell him okay. So we have done this. Now we go to the test. We will try to run both scripts and see, or to run both tasks and see how we will have how we will see how this backup is done. Here we tell him to run the script. Okay, and then we can right click to refresh to see the last section, the section of last run result. You need to make sure or to check it to see if the task is currently running. As we can see there, this is the task is currently running. And we will go here, right click, and tell him to run the task. Okay, and tell him refresh, so we can go here and see that the task is currently running. Okay, then we will go and make another refresh to see the last run status. He will tell you that the operation is completed successfully. Here the script, the task is finished. We can go to the D folder and go to the backup. Here we can have to make something, or I have to note something. When the backup is finished, there is a log file called backup events. You can open it and see the result of running this script. Okay, here we can see, for example, it's telling you that the system event log is backed up, the security event log is backed up, the application is backed up. Okay, this is because it returns to the script and see if the event log size for example the system reaches the maximum that we have tell him to, so he backed it up. And then also if the security section in the event log reached the maximum log size that we tell him in the script, so he will back it up. And also the application, when it reaches the maximum log size that we tell him in the script, so he will back it up. Okay, so now we can see we will go to the folders. We can see that it's already backed up the event, and for the security we can see that's already also take it. Okay, but here we can have a note. We can see that it's only 126 megabytes. Okay, it's less than the maximum size. Also for the other one it's 8 megabyte, not 32. I think there is a problem maybe with the script, but I am sure it's working perfectly. But take note of this. I will try to run the script again and see if it will take the backup again, even though the maximum size of the log is not the same, but you will see that it will not back it up. But just make sure and have a note. Okay, it's only 126 megabyte and the other is 8 megabyte, so it should be backed up when it is 128. Okay, so take a note of this. Here it's 8, it's 7. Okay, it didn't reach 32 megabyte. As we can see, it's 8 megabyte only, it's not 32, even though we told him to. Okay, we will go here. As we can see from the properties of this section, we are telling him that it should be, the maximum log size should be 32,000 kilobyte, which is 32 megabyte. So he should back up when it reaches this maximum size, but it's not there, and we can see that the current log is 68 kilobyte. I will try to run the script again to see if he will take a backup of this log, even though it's small size. It didn't reach the 32 megabyte, it's only 68. We will see that in a moment. We will run it again to make you all see that it should run in a certain when the log size reaches a certain size. Okay, here we can see I'm just revising the script. It's 32 megabyte. Sorry, it's not 32 megabyte, it's 320,000 maybe. You will see that when we run again the script, it will not back up the event logs. We will see that. Just wait for a second. This is a script, as I said before, from TechNet, Microsoft. You can have any scripts you like, but I thought this script is nice and it's organized. I will leave this script, as I said before, in the Transformers folder, which will be all of it on a Google Drive link in the description section under the video. And here I'm just seeing or trying to check. It's only 8 megabyte, as I said before. It's not that much. We can see it's only 132 or 123. We'll go to the other server. Here I'm trying to run the script again. Here I'm just also seeing if this the event logs is back up. Okay, here is the log. Okay, this it is created after you run the task scheduler. Okay, for the first time. Here you can see that it's telling him it's back up, and you can see also when we can see the log size here, it's only 8 megabytes, which is completely, it should be 32. Okay, but maybe there is an issue. Maybe the log file itself, it didn't reach that size, but it should not be back up it then. Okay, it's 9 megabyte. Okay, so we will try to run the script again and then tell him to refresh, and then we will run it back. Then we'll go right click and refresh again. Here we can see that the operation is completed successfully. We'll just make a small refresh just to make sure that the status is updated. Okay, it has run already the script again. When we open the backup event log again, we will see that it is not backed up. Here we can see, just a moment, here we can see that it's telling that it's not backed up, it is not backed up, okay, because it didn't reach the size that we need. Okay, so this is another successful event that it should be backed up to when it reaches a certain size. Okay, but I need to have a space here, but just to make sure. Okay, if we go to the other server, sorry, we can pass this very quickly. This is also the same on the server, or the first server, the same. So now we will continue. This is a small note to be taken, just I try to discuss how to back up the event logs of both servers. Then this is another thing to be added to this is another thing to be added. Maybe this point can be added to Hiyuka as a point for back up your servers. So we will continue working with the document. Here he is saying this, for example, this section, he is saying that in the default domain controllers policy, this is a group policy that is implemented on the domain controllers. Okay, he is saying that there is some setting to be changed in this default domain controller policy to make it more secure. Okay, and this is every group policy, let's say group policy option need to be activated. For example, access this computer from network. He's telling you that the administrator is the only one, for example, to access the domain controller, because this is implemented on the domain controller. You need to make sure that the ones that access the domain controller are the administrators. Okay, authenticated users, because the administrators should be authenticated. So this is very logic. Okay, administrators, authenticated users, enterprise domain controllers. This is a best practice setting. Okay, and tell him add workstations to a domain. Who is responsible to add a workstation to any domain, or to join it to a domain? Sorry, to add it to a domain or join it, of course, is the administrators group. Okay, allow login locally, which means that you can log into the server without the Active Directory, or the domain controller without the Active Directory user account. This should be the local administrator and the backup operators, the local backup operators. This is, and also he is responsible for changing the system time. Is the local service and administrator. This is a couple of settings with different values that should be changed. This is as a recommendation by Hio. Okay, to make it. Okay, I will not change the default domain controllers policy. I will make a new policy and begin making these changes, and then I will try to apply it on my domain controllers. Okay. So here I will make a new group policy. Here I'll make another group policy, and I name it new default. Okay, or right click group policy object and tell him new, and then tell him, okay, right click, it's restricted. I will name a group and call it restricted default domain controllers policy, and tell him okay, and then I will begin working with it. After finishing it, I will link it to my domain controllers, or to be applied to my domain controllers. So here this is under the section of Windows. We will see how we can get this setting. We can get it from policies, from the computer configuration, under the section of computer configuration, Windows setting, and then security setting, and then local policies, and then okay, and tell him user rights assignment. Okay, here we can begin working with this setting. Okay, we can see access this computer from the network. If you need to know every type or what this option in every, or which this, for example, if you need to know what this policy or what these things do, you can go to the explanation tab to see it. Okay, so here we can tell him to define access. We tell him to access this computer locally. We can tell him here are the users that are to use this. If you need to have multiple users to be added, you need to have commas between them. Okay, so it's very simple. You just, sorry, not commas, semicolon. Okay, you need to have, if you have multiple users, you need to put semicolon after every user. Okay, it's very simple. As I said before, we will just have it, or we just will enable all of these options one by one. So for example, as I said before, this first option is saying that who is allowed to access the network. The first section is going to access this computer from the network. Who is responsible, or who is the groups that will access the domain controllers from the network. We are defining specific users or groups, sorry, specific groups to access the domain controllers, which is administrators, authenticated users, and enterprise domain controllers. Okay, here I am adding them. I said before, if you need to add multiple users, you need to have semicolon. Okay, so he's just, he recognized all of the users except enterprise domain controllers. He can't recognize it. So here we're just adding, I will search for this group myself here and see to get the enterprise. Okay, here to search for enterprise, sorry, tell him find now. Here we can see that it is called enterprise domain controllers. Okay, so I'm telling him, basically we're telling him that the only one responsible or the only groups that are allowed to access the domain controllers are the administrators group, authenticated group, users group, and enterprise domain controllers group. Okay, and the other one, add workstation to domain, which is the group or who is responsible for adding workstations to our Active Directory. Okay, adding workstations, I mean, I don't know if the adding means joining them to the Active Directory or just creating workstations in the Active Directory. Okay, so you can see the explanation, but this is basically what does it says. Okay, add workstations to domain. Here we, so here we will also specify that the only one responsible for adding workstation to domain are administrators group. As I said before, the tr_it, this is an Active Directory user, Active Directory group that I have created. This group is a member of the administrators group, so I have full rights to do all of this. Okay, login locally, this is the groups, the local groups that should be able to access the domain controllers. For example, for any reason you wouldn't be able to access your domain controller with your Active Directory user account, so you need to access locally. The only groups or users that are allowed to log into the domain controllers locally without your Active Directory user account are the administrators, local administrator groups. Okay, local administrators group. This is another thing. And the backup operators group, of course. And here, chain backup files and directories. Who is responsible to backup the for example, if you have something to backup on the domain controller, who is responsible, or who is the groups that are allowed to backup files and folders? These are the administrators, Active Directory group, and the backup operators group. Okay, one can say, for example, what about the BackupExec? We can say when I have started set up the BackupExec Veritas to 20.6, I have created a user for this software, and this software will use this user or Active Directory user to backup anything in our network, and this user is a member of the TR_IT, which is our Active Directory IT group. And as I said before, this group is a member of the administrators group, the admins, the domain admin groups, the enterprise admin groups, and the schema. So basically we have the right to back up the domain controller or both domain controllers. Then change system time. This is basically saying that the one is allowed to change the time zone. Okay, or the system time, sorry, the system time is the administrators and the local service. As I said before, if you need to add multiple users, you need to have semicolon between them. Okay, debug programs, administrators. Okay, another thing, deny access to this computer from network. The only group or Active Directory group that is not allowed to access your domain controllers are the group called guests. Okay, and I think also this should be disabled. This group should be disabled by default or any Windows operating system, and of course the domain controllers and the workstations. Okay, deny login through remote. If you want to have a remote access, okay, also deny this group from making a remote access. Okay, enable computer and user accounts to be trusted for delegation. Okay, enable computer and user accounts to be trusted for delegation. Who is responsible to make to delegate rights or to delegate authority or to delegate rights to computers and users? The one responsible for delegation or giving other users and groups user rights, this is the administrators. Okay, force shutdown for remote system. For example, if you are having a remote desktop connection to your server, the only one that can make a remote shutdown is the administrator groups. Load and unload device drivers. Adding device drivers. If you are, for example, set up a sound card or a database or whatsoever, it means loading drivers in specific or in general. restore, okay. And also the BackupExec Veritas 20.6, it's responsible for the backup and the restore, and as I said before, they are a member of administrators, so they can back up and restore anything from the domain controller. Shut down the system, the administrators, okay. I think actually guys, I think all of these groups are not Active Directory groups, these are local groups, okay. Maybe I have mistaken. All of these groups are local groups, because this group policy is only applied to the domain controller, and these groups are the local groups, not the Active Directory groups, okay. So you have to take note of this. So all of what you are doing are with local groups, not Active Directory groups. So for example, here we can see that administrators, backup operators, this is all our local groups on the server, domain controller server. These are not Active Directory groups, okay. And as when you first install the Active Directory, all of the domain admins and enterprise admins and schema admins Active Directory groups are added to the administrators group, okay. Local administrator group of the server. So we have finished the first section. The prevent user from installing drivers, enabled. The allow server operator to schedule tasks, disabled. Don't know what this is all about, but just we will disable it. So I am just opening this or enabling these features. Yeah, do not allow anonymous access of SAM accounts. Well, I don't know these features. As I said before, we can return to the explanation tab for more info. Here is the explain tab to get to this explanation of the group policy setting. What does it do? Here you can see that this red one, we have to be careful when enabling it. Hyuka is saying that you have to make sure because it will break a lot of things, so you need to be very careful when enabling it, okay. So I will not enable it, okay. Thank you, Hyuka, also for saying this. But if anyone needs to try it, because please try it on a virtual environment or on a single machine, okay, before doing this. But actually this machine doesn't have to be the domain controller, maybe any other virtual machine, or maybe any other, maybe a virtual environment would be better. Okay, here I'm just seeing my default domain controllers setting. We will see the difference between what HIUCA domain controller policy is and the default domain controllers policy. Okay, here we can see, for example, it have some different setting. Okay, it's not the same. Some of them are different than one HIUCA did. For example, here, add workstations to domain, HIUCA says administrators. He is saying authenticated users. Here we can see that also access to this computer is not working. Enable trust. There is some settings that HIUCA enabled which is not enabled by default in the default domain controllers policy. Okay, just here to make a comparison between what HIUCA domain controllers or restricted domain controllers policy look like and what is the default domain controllers policy, which is implemented when you install the Active Directory services on the domain controller. So here what we need to do after doing this is to link this policy to the domain controllers under this domain controllers section. Okay, you can link it under this OU controllers. Okay, not here, I'm telling, no, not here, yes, under, yes, the section of domain controllers. You can tell him to link it under the domain controllers OU. Sorry, not this one. You can link it in the location. Here you need to link it to the domain controllers OU. So it can be valid and begin working or begin implemented this group policy. Here we need to put it or link it to this domain controller. Okay, we can link it to this one. Okay, so we'll continue working with the documentation. Here it's just saying HIUCA saying that you need to make sure that if you have a backup plan for domain controllers, you need to check that this backup is taking regularly. We will do this on the BackupExec Veritas. We will make a backup job to backup domain controllers system state for both servers, and we need to check every now and then that this backup job is working. We can do this also from the BackupExec. Tell him to send an email notification after the backup job finish if it is successful or failed. Okay, you can do this from the BackupExec, so you don't need to check by your eyes. It will send an email, okay, to you when the backup job is finished. This is also a best practice for here to reset this username or built-in Active Directory username. Or I think it's yes, Active Directory username. You need to change it, but be careful because it also breaks. You need to test it carefully before implementing it. Okay, so I will not do this recommendation, or I will leave it, but if you want to change it, just read it carefully and see how this is done. We have done this before. Rotate the password of DSRM. We have done it in a previous videos. Here this is an event ID that tells you that the domain controller recovery password is changed. You know, when you install for the first time, you install the Active Directory service, there is an account called Domain Service Management account. This is the account that you will use when there is any problem with the Active Directory itself. We know all there is a safe mode in Windows. When you want to go to the safe mode in Windows, you just press F8 and then go to safe mode. If there is any problem with the Windows, you can repair it from the safe mode. Also, the Active Directory have a safe mode. It's called Active Directory or Directory Service Safe Mode. Okay, to access this safe mode, you have a password for accessing this safe mode. So it is the Domain Service Management account. This password should be changed for this account, okay, because it most of us doesn't change this password regularly. So this is in the event, is recorded in the event log in the server under the number of 479 whatsoever. Okay, so this is a note to be taken also. Okay, I will not leave it for here for now. Here is some audit options to be opened in the group policy. Actually, I tried to search for where is the location of this audit rules, but I didn't find it in the group policy, so I just was a little bit confused. But in my upcoming video I will show you where I find it. Okay, it's not there. Okay, let's go back. Okay, all of this is not mentioning. Okay, I'm trying to search for it, but I didn't find it. Okay, cell. Okay, let's go to the second step. Okay, here we will do another thing. Let's show you all. First of all, when I set up the BackupExec, just a minute, just to make sure over here. When I set up the BackupExec Veritas 20.6, okay, I was planning to backup my domain controllers and all of my Active Directory network using this BackupExec Veritas 20.6. okay, so where is the backup? How is the backup taken? It is taken to a DVD or a CD or an external hard disk or what? Normally in a production environment you will have something called tape drives. The backup are being taken on tapes. Okay, how these tapes look like, you will show you for a moment. For example, HP tape drive. Okay, we can see here, for example, let's show you the images. Here we can see, here is the tape drive. Okay, we can see this is the device itself. It's like the DVD-ROM or CD-ROM. Okay, the DVD-ROM itself, not the device. Okay, this is the device, and this is how the tape looks like. Okay, this is the tape. It's like a cartridge. If you were working with Sega or something, this is the tape. Okay, and this may be there is some tape drives that are 3 terabytes, 6 terabytes, a lot of them. This is here this tape is inserted in this device. Okay, so the BackupExec we will use in this lab a tape and a tape drive. Okay, to backup our domain controllers and the Active Directory. So how this can be done? We are working in a virtual environment. So there is a software that is called, let me show you, it's called StarWinds VTL. Okay, this is called StarWind Virtual Tape Library. It's basically what it does, that it deceives the Windows, okay, or not deceive, it creates a virtual tape drive. Okay, so basically what we are doing, that here, let's go to the tape drive. Here, images. Here was just basically what this software does. Okay, this software makes a virtual device, or tells the window or deceives the windows and telling him that you have already this device, okay, this tape drive, and there is a tape. It's a virtual tape drive. Okay, we are this software will create a virtual tape drive, okay, not a physical tape drive. So basically I am just telling my operating system or Windows Server data center that I have a tape drive, okay, and it is working, so I can use it with the BackupExec software, or to deceive the BackupExec software and tell him that you already have a tape drive and begin using it. Okay, though this is all of this I am doing to simulate how this is done in a production environment. In a production environment you have a software backup solution, and you mostly will back up using a tape drive. Okay, so I am doing this in my lab. I have already set up my backup solution, and here I am installing my virtual tape drive, okay, through the software called StarWinds. I have a documentation on how to install a virtual tape drive. This is also in a PDF. I will put it in the transformers folder, which will be in a Google Drive link under or in the description section under the video, under the video that I will upload on my YouTube channel. Okay, so here we will go and get this software. It's a free one. You can get it for 30 days, and with all of its features. It's called StarWind. We'll copy it, and then we'll begin installing it. This is the license key, this is the software, and this is the license or the trial license key. So now we'll begin installing the software that will simulate that we have a tape drive, or we will create a virtual tape drive. Accept and next. Okay, and tell him next. Create a desktop icon. I'm just making something, you don't need to see this. Okay, we'll just go there and go there. Okay, now we will begin installation. Just a moment. Okay, here we will install it. Here we tell him that already I have a key. As I said before, I will leave the key and the software also. I will put it on a Google Drive link also in the transformers folder. So this software comes with a license key. If it's a trial one, I have already ordered a trial one. Okay, with 30 days. This will open all of the features of this software for you for 30 days. Actually, it's not only a software for creating a virtual tape drive, it's more than that. It's for creating a virtual SAN, or if one of you is working with the SAN or NAS drives. But this is not our topic here. We're using this software to create a virtual tape drive. Okay, I am going more further. We don't need all of this also. This is the key. Okay, here is the key drive. Put post this also in a Google Drive link under the description section, or in the description section in the video, the software and the trial key. Okay, it's here for a couple of its trial, and it's saying it's expire in 16th of May, and you can work with it, or number of servers to work on. You can work with this software on 3 servers, okay, not only 1 server. Install. So here there is a documentation. I will put it also in the transformers folder, which will be on a Google Drive link again, and this Google Drive link will be in the description section under the video on my YouTube channel, okay, under the video on the YouTube channel. Here it will say this documentation on how to create a virtual tape drive, okay, and use it with semantic BackupExec to backup, okay. It's saying this in details, and I think I will begin implementing this PDF in the next video, okay. This video only is to install the software itself, okay. This is the steps. Here we're configuring the, okay, next, okay, this is all a configuration of the StarWinds, okay, and then tell him finish, and then restart the server after that. Let's see if I am working. Yes, okay, I am recording. Here we can pass this really quickly. Okay, I think you can pass also this. Okay, just a minute. Okay, I am shutting down the server. Okay, here let me show you what I am doing. Here I am in this server. Okay, here on the second domain controller, which contains the BackupExec Veritas 20.6, I will add a new hard disk which is 100 gigabyte. I will use the new hard disk to put my virtual tape drive on it, okay, just to make sure to know this, okay. Edit the virtual machine setting. I will add a new hard disk, and this hard disk I will use it to create or put my virtual tape drive on it, okay. So here I tell him to add a hard disk, and then a new hard disk. It's SCSI, okay, and it will be 100 gigabyte. Create a new virtual disk. Okay, it will be 100 gigabytes. Store it as a single disk, and then I will choose the location to save this hard disk. It's a virtual hard disk, of course, so I will put it in the folder that contains my domain controller, second domain controller virtual machine. Just a minute. So let's continue our lab. Here I am saying that I am creating a virtual disk so I can put my virtual tape drive on it. Here I am choosing the folder that contains my domain controller virtual machine, and put my newly created hard disk, and then finish, and then OK. So now I'm just checking the space. So I think the video is finished. Until the next video, we'll begin creating the virtual tape drive and then begin creating the backup jobs to begin working with Veritas, Veritas 20.6 to create a backup job on both servers, okay, to take a backup job or to take a backup from both servers, okay, and other things. Until the next video, hope to see you all. I hope this was informative for you, and would like you to thank you for viewing. Okay, this is the PDF itself. Okay, sorry, no, we don't need all of this. I'll give it another try. Okay, thank you so much.